Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And I hope you're all doing great today and enjoying this Monday. And we're excited to be here. And we have a great guest and a wonderful topic, one that I cannot wait to get into. And if you watch me normally, you know that I always love the topic, and I always love our guests, and I always love what we're getting ready to do. But today, I think you're going to really love it because it's a question that you all deal with on a regular basis. We all do, and that we're curious about. So before we get on with our show, I want to say hi to Amnon.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good, Amnon. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. I love me some Amnon. You doing all right?
Yep.
Yeah, good. So Amnon is our producer. He keeps the show alive and moving. So we're very delighted and grateful and blessed to have him at the helm of the buttons because it's a good thing. Anyway, please feel free to engage with us anytime during the show if you have a question or you just want to chat, comment, whatever you like. You can put your name underneath the video and you'll be part of our chat. And you can put your nickname, I don't care. And you can call in anytime you like at 919-518-9773. Ask questions, comment, make a statement, anything you want. This is your show. We welcome you. We invite you to be part of it. So please, you are also my guests. So please do that, and my friends. As well as you can come in on Skype voice, not a picture, not video, just voice. Computers, that's plural, then the number 2K voice. If you have a question, you want to engage with it that way from anywhere in the world, you can come in. So here we go. Ready? Here we go. Let me introduce Kaitlin to you. Hey, Kaitlin, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So tell everybody about you.
Okay, so my name is Kaitlin. I am a journalist and editor. I live here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I have done a lot of different kinds of reporting, from legal journalism to financial journalism, and then now I'm kind of more in the health and technology space. And I love to write about just the way that the technology that we use affects our inner lives and our relationships with one another.
And that's a big question and that's a room full of discussion, I would say, isn't it? So you just wrote a book, or not just wrote a book, but you wrote a book.
Yes, I wrote a book called The Future of Feeling, Building Empathy in a Tech-Obsessed World.
Do you have it with you right now?
I do, if you want to look at
Yeah, sure.
What it looks like.
Pretty book, great book. Fabulous. And it's where? Where can you find
you
it?
can get it on Amazon, and I think Barnes and Noble, and it's at the Strand bookstore in New York City.
Okay.
Places like that.
Great. So tell us, first of all, why did you hone in on that subject?
It really came from from personal experience and personal questions that I had, honestly, worries that I had. So at the time, I was working as a journalist at a financial magazine in New York, and I was more interested in healthcare and technology than finance. So I tried to find a way to, squeeze that in. And I was doing a piece about how big firms were investing in healthcare technology. And at the same time, I was experiencing a lot of very intense conversations with friends and strangers on social media about just all kinds of things. We all were just talking about, happenings in the news. And those two things kind of came together for me when I realized, okay, technology is really moving forward at a rapid pace and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. And I'm already experiencing, as are a lot of my friends and family, this empathy issue in when it comes to communicating via technology. And I wanted to know, is anyone who is creating this next generation of tech thinking about the impact that it has on our ability to empathize with one another?
Okay, so first of all, define empathy in the way you look at it.
Sure. So when I think about empathy, I think about taking someone else's perspective. So putting yourself in someone else's shoes, trying to imagine what their life and experience is like. And then once you experience empathy, I also think you can put it into practice. And so that's when you will, take action on the empathy that you have. So I think that in the book, I talk about both kinds of empathy for sure.
And so what prompted you to focus on empathy when it comes to the digital world and the digital community, as opposed to anything else? What was it about empathy?
It was a fear that there was a lack of it, especially starting with social media. That when I was, social media gives you this ability to watch other people have conversations in
Mhm.
addition to you having conversations with people.
Mhm.
And in both of those kind of environments, I was noticing that people were just talking past each other, whether it was about politics or something major that happened in the news or world events. It seemed to be kind of a game more than a conversation, and people would make assumptions about other people and not take the time to build trust and a relationship before, assuming that someone had bad intentions. But and I was guilty of this too. I think that's kind of part of what that environment of Facebook, Twitter, places like that, it kind of doesn't leave room for empathy. And so that's why when I was thinking about I read about this potential technology that could exist in 10 years or so where you could literally share your feelings with someone else, not a description of your feelings, but your actual feelings, and they would feel them too. I was like, okay, if this kind of thing is going to start being real, and there's going to be more wearables and trackers and more kinds of technology that are going to be, becoming integral to our lives, I need to know if anyone's thinking about, salvaging our empathy. Because if not, I mean, we would all, just become robots.
Absolutely.
Effectively.
Yeah, exactly. We're all that. Yeah, exactly. So, so you're talking about connecting.
Yeah.
You're talking about listening,
Hmm.
which is all part of that whole thread and theme. So it's a great discussion. It's a brilliant idea that you came up with, because if we don't pay attention to it, it'll get lost,
Right.
right? So we have to, because we are humans creating machines. We can't forget that. There's got to be
Right. And
that.
that's my
Yeah.
goal, is to get people to just ask these questions. Like I feel like with the book, I don't offer, a solution that, fixes everything. And I don't think that any of the people that I interviewed do either. But I think that we just haven't been thinking about this. We
Right.
haven't been asking ourselves, what is technology doing to our ability to imagine other people's experiences, and what does that mean for the way that we communicate with people, the way that we work, the way that we
Right.
live, the way that we build
Right.
technology
Right.
in the future.
Because it's so easy, I think, and I'd love to hear more. I want to hear about the interviews, but it's so easy to go one way or the other. It's so
Hmm.
I mean, technology can either take away empathy, and if you're aware of it, it can add empathy. It's
Hmm.
how we use it. When I hear people talk against technology, I'm so curious too, because if you use it well, it is wonderful for connection. We can connect with
Hmm.
anybody all over the world. You
Like
know,
right now.
yeah, exactly. And we're not that far away from each other this time. I don't. Where are you now?
I'm in Morrisville right now.
Morris. Okay, so we are in North Carolina. I mean, we're in the same area, but a lot of times, we may not be. You might be in Timbuktu somewhere, or we've interviewed people under the water. We've
Wow.
interviewed people on top of a tree. We've interviewed people, I mean, just on top of a mountain. I mean, you could be anywhere and that we can connect. But
Hmm.
but I want to connect. My intention is to connect. Your
Hmm.
intention is to connect. So my use of social media is to connect. But
Hmm.
if you're not pre-thinking that, then it may not happen.
Right. It's definitely like a big theme of the book is that technology is a tool. I absolutely agree with you. And it's the way that it's made and the way that it's used that matters. And so if you, whether it's social media, whether it's virtual reality, whether it's an algorithm of some kind,
Mhm.
it's available to people who have good intentions, but like any tool, it's available to people who don't have good intentions. And then there are unexpected results sometimes. Unintended consequences. And I just think we have been so dazzled by the technology that has been developed over the past 10, 20 years. And it's been so amazed by all of the positives because there are so many that we haven't spent enough time thinking about or, acknowledging and trying to remedy the negatives. But I do agree that there are so many positives. I mean, I mentioned in the book that I actually I met my husband in person, but then a lot of our relationship at the beginning was talking to each other over AOL Instant Messenger or text message, and that helped us get to know each other and take each other's perspectives in a certain way. And yeah, I think that was an important part of our relationship. I don't think that was a bad thing. So
Right.
it definitely depends.
Well, you're speaking to the choir because I met my husband on Match.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And luckily he was like nearby, but whoever knows. So you're right. And you mentioned something earlier about the speed of technology. So you have the speed of technology and then you have our speed. Right? We're going so fast and going so fast with technology often eliminates that connection because we're going so fast. We don't pay attention to it. So and then the consequences. What consequences are you talking about?
Yeah, I think one is just that you feel like you don't. So it's this sort of artificial speed when it comes to social media in particular, which is what was kind of the genesis for this idea in this book. So when you're on Facebook or Twitter, especially, if there's this culture of always having something interesting to say, always trying to be witty, always trying to get attention, and the goals are to get followers, get likes, get shares, retweets, whatever it is, whatever platform you're on, and to contribute something to a conversation. And you can feel this compulsion to contribute. If you're not contributing, you're doing something wrong. And then that pressure can lead to this sense that you need, oh, something happened in the news, I need to hurry up and say something about it. Or someone said this, I need to respond immediately with my knee-jerk reaction because that's how we do things. But then there's no time there to try and take that person's perspective or try and consider multiple perspectives before you say something, or build a relationship with a person before having a certain kind of conversation. So I just think that with social media in particular, there's this artificial need for speed, if you will, that has been created, and we respond too quickly sometimes without being able to first access our empathy muscle, as I like to call it. I feel like empathy is a muscle that we need to keep from atrophying through technology.
Absolutely. Well, with Twitter going fast and Facebook going fast, I mean, if you don't address something, then it's gone. You can't even hardly find it again. So
but maybe that's okay sometimes.
And maybe it's okay.
Maybe we just need to be more okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. If if you miss it, there's always going to be something else, but you have to know that. And I guess the other question, or not a question, but statement you can comment, I'm used to connecting. I mean, I'm a connector. I love connecting. I like, talking to people. I know because I started as a connector, it hasn't disappeared online. I mean, it's kind of developed. I can take my connection ways and kind of go here and there and yonder. However, the generations that have grown up with technology, that has been their main thoroughfare to connecting, they're a concern. The millennials. I mean, I interviewed the millennials. I mean, that's all they know in a lot of ways. That's a concern because they're the next us's. They're the next me's. They're the next, and I want to know, how are they doing?
So two great points you make there. First, I'll say I'm a millennial.
I know you are.
I'm an old millennial.
Yes. Oh, I don't know that, but I can tell you're a millennial.
I I've actually been really pleasantly surprised by a lot of conversations I've had with Gen Z, who are the younger kids, like the teenagers right now, that a lot of them seem very aware of the kind of unsustainable nature of their relationships with technology and their parents' relationships with technology. And they seem, they definitely use it differently than I have, and then you probably do, and a lot of people do. But they I've just been really, sort of encouraged by the way that they're using technology, the ideas some of them have about how to make things better. So I don't think we need to worry that we have kind of a generation of,
Okay.
little robots, but there are definitely concerns. There are concerns about, empathy and social skill erosion, but there's also, mental health concerns. And if you're spending all of your time on some of these apps like Instagram, where you are always comparing yourself to what other people's lives look like, that can be really difficult. But another thing you brought up was that, you said you are a connector, and that's the perspective from which you approach technology. I think that's a really important point because especially when it comes to tech like virtual reality, which I write about a lot in the book, your personal experiences and perspective, and even like personality type, going in has a huge impact on how you experience things, any technology. And the best and worst parts of you might be sort of illuminated or aggravated by technology. I think a lot of times we say, tech makes people X. And a lot of times it's like, well, you had that in you, right? But then you're put into an environment that maybe kind of, makes it stronger.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to choose the technology that I
Mm-hmm.
want to be involved with based on my way of connecting. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a freaky listener. I mean, listening is my thing. So I also am cognizant of how do I sound when I am commenting. I mean, I don't just write a comment and send it, post it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I listen to it, to how, what words I've chosen to put together. Does it sound like the way I want to be represented? If it's
Mm-hmm.
not, and it goes out, I immediately edit it.
So why do you do that? Why is that important to you that it comes across a certain way?
And this is very important. So especially I do that because I want to be perceived the way I want to be perceived. I want to keep open lines of communication open, even in politically.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am very conscious of how something is going to sound politically in the way I represent myself. There are very many times people will say, I'm not going to do that on Facebook because I I don't want to sound a certain way because I don't want people to think this or think that. And I sit back and I think to myself, oh, that's how I have felt.
Mm-hmm.
But because I believe strongly about certain things, I and because I am um, the kind of person who wants to keep lines of communication open between differences in opinion, I feel that I'm a moderator on there as well. And so I'm very conscious of I will voice my opinion, but I'll voice it in a way that is not derogatory to somebody else. And
So
that
you
when
are
again,
Well, so you are trying to essentially take the other person, whoever might be reading your comment, you're trying to take their perspective. How might this
absolutely,
come across to someone who
absolutely.
like me or who isn't like me? And that's honestly all I'm talking about when I say, let's have more empathy with the way that we comment. Let's think a little bit more before you post. Um, empathy, like it can kind of sound like this, mushy, like soft, nebulous kind of thing, but it's really can sometimes just be imagine how someone who is different from you might read what you're about to write. So you know what you mean, but how could someone potentially misunderstand what you're saying? And that doesn't mean don't say it all the time, or but it might mean, oh, maybe I should, tweak this a little bit, or it might not. But just thinking about that, I think if we could And that's something that I think is really important with kids because of what we were talking about, that the younger kids now who this is their whole life is enveloped in technology, teaching those lessons as part of developing other social skills, teaching them, like just like in person, if you want to, you know, take someone else's perspective, put yourself in their shoes, don't do something you wouldn't want done to you. Do that online too. Do that when you're in playing Minecraft or whatever,
Right.
wherever you're talking to people through the internet.
Right. No, it's very important with kids because it's so easy for anybody to become apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly don't want technology to cause kids to become apathetic. And it certainly can do the reverse when you feel like you have no power over a situation or over your own experience, when you feel like you have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important for everybody to feel like, no, it's a tool.
Yes.
Just like I'm a tool, I personally and you, we're tools for someone. Your experience and what you've learned, you've become a tool
Mm.
that somebody can learn and use you in
Like
your.
a conduit.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so it's very important that these conversations are, that people hear them
Mm.
because technology is a tool.
Yes.
So it's very cool. So, and if I miss something in asking you a question that you feel is important to something we're talking about, go right ahead and interrupt me.
Okay.
Okay? And ask me a question. I loved what just happened. So feel free to do that.
Great.
So tell us some of who you interviewed and some of the things that you discovered.
Sure. So I interviewed a lot of people for the book. I interviewed a lot of developers, so people who, and entrepreneurs, so people who are creating new things. So I interviewed someone who is an entrepreneur who created a virtual reality system for diversity and inclusion instruction at companies. So right now, if your company is having a diversity and inclusion seminar, you might have someone come in and talk to you, and you might do some exercises. But this includes a virtual reality element if the company desires, or there's an app that helps anonymize some of those exercises, and it helps people just take the perspective of someone who's not like them. So if you work in a big company and there's people of all different races and genders and um, geographies and income levels, you can choose to create different experiences that you want your employees to have through virtual reality to just see what it might be like as, say, a person of color who's in a meeting and is has to overhear some racist jokes that people think are funny, or the person who actually created this company is a transgender woman, and so you can put on the headset and be in a meeting and similarly experience what that's like to overhear negative comments or be interrupted, just things like that, just having those little experiences. So I actually interviewed a lot of people who are creating virtual reality experiences similar to that are aimed at helping people embody the experiences of others. And an important thing about that that came through in my reporting is that these things are not magic experiences that suddenly make you a totally empathetic person who now knows what it's like to be someone else. But the idea is that it can kind of trigger your empathy in a different way than if you had just read a story or talked to a person, and help you almost see how different your experience is from someone else's, so that you might be less likely to make
Right.
assumptions or assume that you really understand them at
Absolutely.
all. So it's kind of almost like it helps you realize how little you know,
Right.
and that makes you more empathetic to a person's differing experience.
Right.
Um, and I got to do a couple of those experiences actually. It was really fascinating to put on the headset and like walk around in this different world as someone else for a couple of minutes.
Well, I have a lot of things to say. First of all, uh, yeah, well, and people have a lot of judgments. That's why I was telling you earlier, I'm writing a series of books, and that's because in just one afternoon, listening to the heart of someone or a philosophy, an idea, a group of people, so that when you listen into the heart of someone, we have a better understanding. We may not like what they do, but at least we have a better understanding of who they are and
Hmm.
why. And it may not be what I choose, but you can understand it. So it's very important to take that perspective. I was curious a few things. First of all, when you talk to developers, do you find any difference in gender between men and women and what they're creating?
So I ended up talking mostly to women
Mhm.
because those are the ones who are creating the empathy focused
Okay,
stuff.
well,
That
that answers my question.
Not 100%. I
Okay.
did talk to some men as well who were doing that, but a lot of them were women and people of color, which actually is another reason I'm optimistic, is because it seems like the next generation of people who are creating, the next wave of tech is a lot more diverse.
Okay, good. Well, that's good to know too. And getting back to something you and I were talking about, one of my findings when I was doing my book on millennials is how many millennials wanted to be mentored
Mm.
from people like me. And in reality, how many of us want to be mentored by millennials?
Oh,
We have so much to teach each other.
yeah.
I mean, millennials want to know what I know about communication,
Hmm.
connecting, things like that. But I also want to learn. I mean, who knows anything better about technology than millennials?
Mm.
So I think it's really important that we have these open lines of communication and
Absolutely.
discover what we know to be true, but we need proof of, sort of, kind of. Also, in your research about technology, what about memes? I, is
Mm. What about memes?
Well, they are subtle.
They are, they can be. That's a really interesting question. I feel like, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is how easy it is to pack pack a very negative, hurtful punch into a meme. I mean, a lot of them are just funny, but definitely over the past like 5, 10 years, that you can also kind of weaponize them if
Yeah.
you so desire. And it just makes it that much easier to say a lot without really saying anything, and then not take responsibility for how it might make someone else feel, because you can just be like, oh, it's just a meme, it's just a picture. Um,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
just like
know.
it's just sarcasm. It's not, you know.
Right. Or like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize that had like a Nazi symbol in it. Haha, like I was just sharing it because it
Right.
looked funny. Um, I feel like that has lessened a bit over
Okay.
the past few years, and people have gone back to memes just being funny, but that might just be that the people who use them in other ways have moved to different platforms than the ones that I'm using.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting question. It's a really interesting mode of communication. And it kind of like captures, the zeitgeist of like different mini eras throughout, the 2000s and 2010s. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm actually, so as an old millennial, I'm about to turn 32. I'm at the point already where I half the time I don't understand what the kids are talking about on social media.
Oh, that cracks me up.
I don't
Oh my God.
understand TikTok. I mean, I understand it, like, but I don't really get like the culture of it. But it's
Somebody,
fascinating.
so this is interesting. Somebody the other day told me about a new, and I don't know what it is. I still can't quite get it. It's called Glides.
Mm.
Is it Glides, I think? And it's like you can have your own glide. It's kind of like a whole new internet.
Oh, that's new to me.
Well, I'll have to make sure of the name and I'll send it to you. It's very interesting. I mean, you could set up groups and
Huh.
you have your own website in there. You have to be approved because it's still in beta. I mean, it's very, I'm not, have you heard of it? I'm not, here's about a lot of things. We should, yeah, have to look at it.
Well,
But
that's
there's,
actually interesting because like some people have asked me what I think is going to happen next,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of different things. And the book is about more than social media, but in social media specifically, since I wrote the book, I've learned about a couple of new things that are in beta that do seem a lot more focused on helping you create small groups of
Right.
like-minded people, which is really interesting because that was kind of how the internet was at the beginning when you would have forums for certain
Oh,
things, and now
yes.
how Reddit is, which is still one of the most popular platforms where you go into these
Mhm.
subreddits, although some of them get enormous. But some of the new social networking sites that I think are in development are focused more on bringing it back to the smaller groups, which I think is probably going to be a good thing for a
Right.
lot of reasons.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. We tend, I mean, face to face is still good,
Mm.
right? I am not surprised that Skype, Hangouts, FaceTime, all of those things are so important.
WhatsApp.
What? Yeah,
Mm.
I'm not surprised. We kind of do these things, but the things that matter most will always matter. We just have to help them matter in this new world.
Yes,
But the
that's totally my philosophy.
Yeah, but they're always going to matter. But this, I think it's called Glide.
Okay, I'll have to
there
look it
is
up.
something. I
I'm
mean,
not
I just
saying,
looked
yeah.
and there is something, but it's
What do you,
treading water. It's like chewing already been chewed.
what does it
So
tell
it
you?
says that Glide is the the fastest live video messenger app on the
No, it's not
planet.
that then.
Huh?
It's not that. It's
It's
something
not.
else.
That's
Mm.
what
No.
Glide is.
I'm going to look it up and tell you what it is. Somebody sent me this thing last week.
Okay.
Somebody I really like, and I'm going to send it to you.
Okay,
So
it'll be
you,
interesting
yeah,
to
yeah,
see.
yeah. One of my questions I have is, you can't write it. I mean, you can't do another book fast enough, right? About what you're writing
In what
about and
way?
about your interest in technology.
Actually, I kind of want to do something totally different
Okay.
next. But yeah, I have already, you know, it's I'm already working on it up here.
Because I can see this being somewhat of an ongoing thing in a way,
Mm.
but because there's so many things to talk about and
It
areas
is
to,
hard to keep up. So
yeah.
I will say that so it took about 4 years to write the book.
Okay.
And during that time, there were a couple of, platforms or products or, things I wrote about that don't exist anymore. So I had to change it, or, things just evolved in a certain way or people moved from one place to another. So a lot of things changed just
Mhm.
during the course of writing the book,
Right.
which for some reason I didn't anticipate that much at the beginning, which is kind of silly now that I think about it, because of course the whole point is that tech is moving so fast.
Right.
But I think that's actually part of the reason that I'm not planning on doing another book on tech, at least right away, because I feel like we're in a very volatile moment right now when a lot of things are happening, and I think things are going to change pretty majorly over the next like 5 years or so. um, and so I don't really know that I know what's going on right now. Like I think a lot of the
Uh-huh.
gig economy things like Uber and Lyft and Grubhub, all of those things seem to kind of be falling apart. The social media platforms, like the big ones, Facebook and Twitter, are kind of, a lot of things are changing. I think government policy is going to change some things. So I'm just going to sit back and watch, I
Mhm.
think, for a few
Well,
years.
Caitlin, you've become like a forecaster. When
I
you
mean,
learn so much about something like you have, and you've gotten into the nitty gritty of it,
mhm.
because getting into the area that you're in is the nitty gritty. Talking
Yeah.
about emotion, the way you talk about it, is in the nitty gritty. I mean, you have
Mhm.
got to dissect it in every way, shape, or form. So I can also see you not writing, but I can see you or somebody continuously having these conversations.
Oh, definitely.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah. I will be continuing to have the conversations. I've still got my newsletter and my poor blog that has been neglected, but I've got the
Mhm.
newsletter, and on Twitter, I'm always interacting with people who are kind of actually in the trenches of this stuff. And yeah, I definitely will be keeping up, but I feel like I have said what I need to say, and I want to see if it actually influences anyone to,
Mhm.
use more empathy
Mhm.
in the
Well,
work that they do.
I do think, beyond a shadow of a doubt, people want to connect. I'm a coach and I coach all kinds of people. And I will tell you that I coach a lot of men and I love
Mm,
coaching men. I love women, I love kids, but I love how men want to grasp empathy, emotion, connection, listening in ways that they may have always wanted to, but
mm,
hadn't verbalized before. And
mm-hmm,
I find it fascinating because they're hungry. They,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
They've been socialized not to.
they've been socialized not to, and they're seeing women do it, and they want that.
Mm,
Women are rising to all kinds of levels in corporate environments where men are, and they're
mm-hmm.
seeing them go up quicker. Maybe they're seeing them do things that they didn't think they could do, but they're doing, and it's working. And they want it, and they want it in families. I mean, they want it in all walks of their lives. So I love working with men for that reason, and they're ready for these kinds of connections and these kinds of conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah,
it's
I will say
go ahead.
that a lot of the people that I've heard from who have just like sent me emails or connected with me, especially on LinkedIn for some reason, are men. And I was a little bit surprised by that, but really, pleasantly surprised that they're interested in this, especially the people from who work at tech companies or work in Silicon Valley and, want to. I think part of it is, an altruistic thing. And part of it is that, frankly, it's just like a better business
Right.
move to make sure your employees have empathy for one another and for the people that they're creating products for. Like it's just better for business. There's research showing that people perform better if they're more empathetic. They make better connections, obviously, with potential customers. And I think part of what you just said about that there's more women moving up in business and things like that. One of the traits that is often, tied to that or pointed to as a reason for that is that women tend to be better at expressing empathy and related, social skills. So it's not surprising that, that would be something that people are noticing, men are noticing and realizing like, hey, that's actually something that I want to get better at too.
Absolutely. And economically, because we are dealing in a global economy with people from all over the world, all kinds of languages, all kinds of everything. I mean, we don't even know today how you connect sexually. You know, we have people who are men, we have people who are women, we have people who say they're they. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are you going to? What is culturally? We don't have a clue how to get along with everybody. So, what is going to be the thing that helps us connect? We may not speak the same language. We may not eat the same food. We come from all kinds of different parts of the world. What is going to be the thing that will bring that connection? We're going to listen for the emotion. We're going to listen to connect. Otherwise, we can't do it.
Right.
There's no way. And
Mm-hmm.
and and if you can't do it, you're lost.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So it's we have no choice. I mean, I don't see a choice.
We have no choice in that way. And then, as I say in the book, you know, we have no choice when it comes to the way that technology is evolving. I say that we don't have to settle for a tech dystopia.
No,
I think we can adapt and we have to. We just have to. We can't move forward without thinking more critically about this.
no. Just like I need you and you need me. I hope we need to work together. Everybody needs each other. We need it. It not need, but it's all good. We
Mm-hmm.
just have to learn to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of lonely people around, and you can be in a room of 1,000 and feel lonely. You can
Mm-hmm.
be on the internet and feel lonely,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Actually, I mean, there's research showing that the more time you spend on the internet, depending on what you're doing and again, who you are going in, the more lonely you can be because because of that comparison game that happens, especially on some social media, that you see everyone else having fun together. And, having these beautiful lives and vacations that they post pictures of, and you don't see, their whole life, but that's
Right.
not what these platforms are for.
Right.
And it's making a lot of people feel
Right.
really lonely. On the
Absolutely.
other hand, it helps people who have social anxiety or autism spectrum disorder or physical disabilities who can't leave their house much, or for various reasons can't be in person. It helps. Tech
Yeah.
helps people make connections. So again, it's a tool and it's how you use it.
Absolutely. And so that's the beauty of it. Right. So but we got to learn we have to learn better and remember
Hmm.
how to use it as a vehicle, which then it can do all kinds of great things. But if you don't, it makes it worse. Just like it can make it all great and so much better, it can make it so terrible and so much worse. It's kind of like we really need to use it. So, besides the developers and the virtual realities and virtual lives, was there another big topic that you focus in the book?
So I talked to teachers about, use of technology in classrooms,
Mm,
and using apps and things like that to help teach kids social skills like empathy. They also talked about the negative impact that it has on some kids, but about how they're using it, you know, for good as well. I talked to some people in the medical field, using virtual reality to distract patients, especially kids, while they're going through uncomfortable medical
mhm.
procedures. Um, let's see. I talked to some artists who are pretty involved in this kind of thing as well. Journalists who are starting to use things like augmented reality and virtual reality and 360-degree video to
Uh-huh.
help people be more like in the story, and the kind of tension there between, you don't want to manipulate people, you still want to, be ethical as a journalist, but then also, get people to be more embodied in the stories that you're telling. So a lot of these things are happening like really across industries.
Mhm. Well, I feel like the video has made a big impact on creating that immediate connection, empathy, and
Mm.
telling your story and having other people relate to it. I mean, it's right there. I mean, you have
Hmm.
it. That's why I love what we do here. Yeah, I mean, you can do. I mean, podcasts are great, and you can use your voice and you can connect and you can make yourself come alive, and a conversation can be great. But when you can see people,
Mm.
it's so rich. It's like we're in the
But
same room.
interestingly, I actually write about some research in the book that showed that there's something about hearing a person's voice that actually, in some cases, can trigger more empathy than if you can hear and see them.
Oh,
And
really?
I
Prove
just
me
got
wrong. Go ahead. I love it.
well, it depends. It
No,
depends.
it's great.
Um, it's one study, but
Uh-huh.
the thought I think was that because there's less information maybe that you're taking in. But yeah, they had people sit in a dark room and um, kind of tease each other in a nice, kind, empathetic kind of way, I guess, have a nice conversation. And they found that people who could only hear each other and not both see and hear each other reported, stronger empathy feelings, which to me is one reason that I argue in the book and all the time that I do love podcasts so much, because you can really just kind of have someone in your head in a way. But I also agree that when it comes to literal, person to person communication, obviously the benefit of a
Right.
video is there as well. You can see facial expressions and body language.
Well, that's very interesting, uh, because I can really kind of agree. Because I mean, I love this and I wouldn't change, but when you think of technology and people's attention span,
Mm,
when I have a guest coming on, I often say, keep your answers as short as you can, because people have a short attention span.
yeah, I struggle with that.
Well, we all do. That's why I say it all the time. And I don't want to talk too much either and make it all about me when I have a guest. So I'm very, careful in what I do. But because of that, there's less distraction.
Mm.
When you only hear somebody, you're only listening, right?
Mhm.
You have to listen, you have to concentrate. And
Mhm.
when you are eh, using technology to listen and to watch, that could be overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's part of the idea. And
Mhm.
actually, that's also part of the reason that there's a little bit of a concern with using virtual reality in journalism because, among other concerns, but one of them is that there's so much to take in when you're kind of trying to move around and see what's all around you in the virtual landscape and read any text that might be there and listen to the sounds that are happening. People have FOMO about these experiences, fear of missing out.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's a
Interesting.
real issue.
Interesting. Well, show us your book again, just because we haven't shown it in
I
a little
will.
while. Here you
Here she
go.
is.
So, recommended to business people, to
Yeah,
mothers, fathers. Go ahead.
and teachers, parents, business people, definitely anyone who is concerned about kind of the future of empathy and social connection in a increasingly tech obsessed world. And it is available on Amazon. It's also for viewers who are in the Raleigh area. You can get a signed copy at page 158 Books in Wake Forest if you go to their store or their website.
Great. So, let me ask you this, and this may be something that you spoke about in your book, maybe not, but I'm sure you've given lots of thought to things after it. As we said earlier,
Mm.
because once you open up something, it's kind of there. You kind of like, if you buy a red car, you see a lot of red cars,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, how does certain things affect it? Let's say, for instance, the tone of the voice in a post or in some technology, or the color people choose, or the graphics that they choose, and things of that sort. How does that help or hurt?
That's a really interesting question. I can really just speak from kind of anecdotal experience
Mhm.
on that, but I know that, if someone posts all the time in a kind of very aggressive manner, I might, be turned off from engaging with them or really empathizing with them. Um, I think tone. So I think it really depends on like the relationship that you have with someone.
Mhm.
If it's a stranger, it's so easy to just be like, well, you're typing in all caps, so I'm clearly not going to take you seriously. And to a certain extent, if you're seeing dozens or hundreds of messages, you can't take every one of them seriously. You don't have the capacity, to do that. Um,
So, Kaitlin, you would say that there are times that you can pick and choose not to be empathetic.
I don't know that. So, yes, but I also don't know that we always are consciously making that choice. I think that is kind of a safety mechanism in our brain to tell us, okay, this is going to be too overwhelming, so we're going to turn the empathy down. I think part of what might be happening when we're on social media is that because we are bombarded with so many messages from so many people.
Right. It's like,
I also,
I just want to interrupt you just a second. It's kind of like on Facebook sometimes. I wish there was instead of just a like, that there was a love.
mm,
Because there are times that like
there
just,
is.
it's a picture.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
emoji.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Because, because I feel that with certain things,
Hmm.
like just doesn't serve it enough. I think love speaks more for certain things, or just the fact that somebody answered.
Right.
To me, I would prefer saying love that as opposed to just like that. Liking is like easy. So anyway, go ahead. I did mean to interrupt you, but I didn't. So good.
Okay. Um,
And you forgot what you were saying.
yeah, I don't remember where I was
Okay.
going,
I'm
but
I apologize. I just
that's
needed
okay.
to get that out.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. Just the other thing I wanted to ask you really quick. What would your recommendation be for parents?
Um, so I think there are some good guidelines from organizations like Common Sense Media
Mhm.
um, for, things about screen time and understanding the potential impact of screen time and how to talk to your kids about social media and how they should behave. I think the biggest thing though is you model behaviors for your kids of all kinds. And so if you want your kids to have a good relationship with technology, you kind of have to model that for them. So you have to, if your concern is that they are spending too much time on their phone or their devices, you need to probably spend less time on your devices so that they see that that's not, that they don't have to do that all the time. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is think about being a model. And then if your kids are using social media in particular, just keeping an eye on like how do they seem to feel afterwards, or do they, are they showing signs of like anxiety or having trouble sleeping? All these things that people tend to report if they spend a lot of time on social media. So just kind of being aware. I don't think it makes sense, and I'm not a parent, so I'm coming from just someone who's done some research on this. It seems unrealistic to say, no screen, no phone. So I think there's got to be a happy medium, and we're all trying to figure it out.
Right. But it's not practical to just say none of those things, because everybody's doing it and the kids are learning. What are they going to watch, or what are and I see my little 18-month-old grandson. I mean, he knows to do this and he knows to do this.
Yep.
I mean, but he's seeing everybody do it. Not just his mother and his father, but everybody. Where can you go and you don't see somebody doing this or this or this? So, he's seeing it all. So hold on just a second. I'm done. You have my thing up? Okay. So here so here are my books. In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men. In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Twins and Millennials. And soon, big brother, sister to join them will be In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of People Impacted by Opioid Addiction. And for those of you that are in the Raleigh-Durham extended area, I am going to be having an opioid summit in October 9th. It's going to be at the American Institute of Health and Fitness. We're looking to have about 400 people attend. And the name of the summit is the People's Opioid Summit. So it is for all of us who don't know very much. And even if you know a little, this will be perfect. And for people teachers, coaches, anybody who engages with anybody who would like to know more, it is not, going to be like a doctorate degree. It's going to help to understand the stigma, get rid of the stigma, and get beyond the fear so that we can save a life. If you have any questions about it, or you would like to present, be a vendor or a sponsor, please connect with me at MarilynShannon.com. And we're going to have speakers, breakouts, and all that kind of stuff. And also, one of the most important things will be to give back pills. We'll have the media there, police, all that stuff. So first responders. And we're putting together kits that will be helping to save a life, and also wound care. So there's a lot that goes into it. So if you have any questions about it, please contact me at MarilynShannon.com. Okay. So final few minutes, words, wisdom, just coming from you. What would you say?
I would say it can seem pretty bleak the way that technology is affecting us in our relationships, but there is hope. As we talked about earlier in the conversation, people do have some agency in the way that they use technology, and we are not stuck with all of the negative things right now. You can make decisions about what you want to use and give your input to make the tech of the future better. So I like to leave people with hope and humility. So there's a lot of hope. Empathy is not a magic pill, but we can adapt, and I think we have to.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. And but one thing I do want to ask, and this I don't know if you. This is a good question or not, but it is one that's coming to me, so I got to use it. Of all the social platforms, which one do you think is the most empathetic? Or helps you be empathetic?
Yeah, like the most conducive to
Yes,
empathy.
yes.
That is a really tough question.
Oh, I bet
Um,
that's why I'm asking. And unfortunately, you know.
it might be Instagram,
Oh,
but Instagram also I think is probably the worst for mental health if you are prone to anxiety or depression.
mhm.
So,
Isn't it
pros.
interesting how the best can be the worst?
Mhm.
But you have a choice there. You don't have to follow people who cause you pain,
Mhm.
but you can engage with your tribe and the things that you want to like. And what about Pinterest?
Um, Pinterest just feels like a pretty neutral
Okay.
platform to me. Like I
Hmm.
don't really communicate with other people that much on it.
Hmm.
I will say with the Instagram thing that it is, um, you do have control of who you follow, and I do think you should, you don't have to look at things that upset you. But I actually do recommend that people follow people whose lives are very different from theirs. Not necessarily people who are going to upset them or make them angry, but just people who have different life experiences. That's
Right,
an easy way to integrate
right.
more empathy into your technology use.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's good advice. So we'll see. And if so, I'm on Instagram. So make
All
friends
right,
with
I'll
me.
find
Yeah,
you.
Marilyn listens. So Kaitlin, you have been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Well, we're not done yet. I'm going to reach out and see if you want to speak at an event.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
talk about it.
Yeah. Good. A women's event. I'll reach out. All
Great.
right. So everybody, just connect, show empathy. Just remember you're not walking in everybody's shoes, but you sure can love them and try. So, anyway, we love you. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.